Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of Tipsy Lips Spill the Truth. My name is Elena Rodriguez, and I am your host. I am also the CEO and founder of Besitos Beauty, which is bringing you this podcast this evening. We are color with confidence, and we are more than just lipstick. You can check us out at besitosbeauty.com. Tonight, we have a very special guest. His name is Justin Danforth, and he is going to talk about living a life of purpose over pleasure. And why can he discuss this topic with us? Well, Justin served 14 years and 4 months in North Carolina Department of Corrections, and he was released on September 29th, 2016. So we are going to get raw and real tonight. We are going to talk about some of the hard things. We also want to hear from you. So if you are tuning in, please let us know where you're tuning in from. And at any time throughout this podcast, please feel free to post comments and even ask questions as Justin talks about his journey of spending 14 years and 4 months in North Carolina Department of Corrections. Welcome, Justin. How are you this evening?
I am well, thank you, and thanks for having me on.
You're so welcome. We already have Duchess from Texas. So, hi, Duchess. Thanks for tuning in. So, Justin, living a life of purpose over pleasure, that can pack in a lot of different things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started on that?
Yeah, so it's a journey, a very long journey in and of itself. But um, so it started out with me going to prison at with an eighth grade education at the age of 21,
Okay.
right? And I was being charged with first degree murder and
Okay.
facing a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Wow. At
So
21?
at 21.
Okay.
Um, and while sitting in jail for almost 2 years, for 20 months to be exact, waiting for trial, my attorney came and he said, "Listen, you're scheduled to go to trial in 3 months from now. You will lose this case.
Wow.
You will get a life sentence, and you'll never see your daughter outside of prison again. There is no more parole under the new law."
Wow. And how old was your
So
daughter at the time?
my daughter was 10 months old.
Okay.
So imagine what that feels like to a 21-year-old, at the time, a 21-year-old kid. I was not mature at all. Where some kids today, or even back then, maybe, but you had those kids who are a little bit mature for their age. Some maybe military, some just going to college, doing the right thing in life. I was the complete opposite. I was doing all the wrong things in life, and I was very good at doing bad. I was the best at being a criminal, be having a criminal mind. I was very good with using my tongue to just make people, to belittle people and so on. Vicious personality, very arrogant. Nobody could tell me nothing at that age and with that mentality. And so again, that's where that journey starts, with being smacked with a reality of facing a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Yeah, you're kind of
Um,
humbled real quick when you've got this like ego and this thing going for you and kind of calling the shots wherever you're at. People probably looked up at you with respect and just all the things. And now all of a sudden, you're like in a completely different spot like that. Wow.
yeah. And so um, I ended up taking a plea bargain. I pled down from first degree murder to second degree murder. And that's how I ended up with my sentence. My sentence was 17 years and 9 months
Okay.
off of that sentence because of good time and the 85% law sentencing structure. I did 14 years and 4 months of that 17 years, 9 months. So with that being said, again, my mindset was so backwards. I had just had a backwards ideology on life in itself, and it took me a good 3 to 4 years to really realize where I was at, how I got there, and who I was.
So even though you're in there, it still took that length of time for it to all sink in and process, really?
Yes, because I had been doing wrong for so long. I started out hanging with the wrong crowd when I was 8, 9 years old.
Mhm.
9 and 10 years old, we would sneak and smoke cigarettes. The older people in the family, from those closest to me, mother, uncle, they all did drugs. So 9, 10, 11 years old, we could sneak into their stash and get high and things like that. So
Yeah, it was
I had been
easy.
doing
It was easy
wrong.
to get it, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and I had been doing wrong for so long. You don't. It just doesn't. It doesn't leave you overnight. You
Yeah.
know, when you if whether even if it's a good lifestyle, when you have a lifestyle, um, you can't just drop it. When you have bad habits or addictions, right? You don't just drop them cold turkey overnight and just it's all flowers and butterflies or whatever, right? So even when you are overcoming them, and you do drop things cold turkey. I quit smoking cigarettes cold turkey, but it wasn't on the first try. It took me a few tries to quit doing a lot of the things that I was doing that weren't healthy for me, weren't good for me. So that's where the journey of seeking that life of purpose over pleasure starts. About 4 years into that incarceration,
Okay.
and it just began by me prison gave me a lot of time to sit with myself, and the more I sat with myself in that cell in isolation, um, it just the more I was disgusted with who I was, where I was, and I had no other choice but to face myself. There's nobody to blame, and I've never been the one of having that victim mentality. I never blamed the judge, blame the witnesses that were going to testify against me if I would have went to trial, right? I never blamed my attorney, and he's the one who just, like, in my mind, gave up the fight. He just came to me like, "You're going to lose." I was
Mhm.
like, "Wait a minute, we just had an argument we talked about 2 weeks ago. I was going to win." It's like I didn't blame him for throwing in the towel, so I didn't have that victim mentality. But when you sit with yourself and you have nobody else to face but yourself, and have nobody to answer to but yourself for all the actions and the decisions that you make, of where you are today, no matter who you are, where you're at right now, right?
Mhm.
All of your viewers, you, myself, where we are today is a direct reflection or result of the decisions we've made.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's where I found myself, like, I did this. This
Now,
is all
when
based
you
on
were
my.
in there for 4 years, like the 4 years that it took you to start getting to this place, were you close with your family? Like, were you close with your mom? Was there family that supported you through this, or had you just kind of been on your own growing up and just doing your thing?
Yeah, so no, my mother was there. She brought my daughter to visit
Okay.
every so many weeks. I was in a different state, so I was in a state I had no family or friends in.
Okay.
So I'm in unfamiliar territory, right? So, um, and in prison, there's these labels, there's these titles, there's these groups, there's these cliques, right? And so you kind of have you fit in somewhere. um I was a loner inside, but I did have family. My mom was there, my cousins were there. I could call them. They write letters, things of that nature.
Okay.
That wore off a little bit over time. My mother never left. She was always there right up to the end, right?
Mhm.
um Her, and she brought my daughter, and then my sister would come see me with them. But some of the other family members, they just kind of fell off as far as the letters go. And it's like getting a brand new car. You went so long wanting that car, and that's all you could think about was that car. You got the car, and a month later, it's like, now
Yeah.
you're dropping French fries on the floor. When you first got it, you would eat in it. You would eat
Right.
or
Right.
drink it. Now you're drinking milkshakes, and eating French fries, and it doesn't matter So
Yeah.
things wear off, and
Yeah.
out of sight, out of mind. I was in another state, very far away. People had their own lives, and I never blamed anybody for any of that. The contact that started to fade.
Hmm.
because I knew if I was there, they would be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Got it. So you went into starting this journey of the purpose over pleasure when it finally started sinking in that this is where I am. This is time already gone by, but this is how much more time I have to go.
exactly. So and as self-explanatory as that sounds, living a life purpose over pleasure, right? Um, a lot of people have a hard time with making the sacrifices it takes to do that because we want everything that we want, right? We want comfort, we want ease, we want instant gratification. And you can't live your life's purpose and be chasing those pleasures at the same time. It has to be one over the other. You got to make that choice. You got to make those sacrifices in order to do that. You're either going to sacrifice your life's purpose by placing those pleasures and comforts and things of that nature, those gratifications and satisfactions over your purpose, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that everything, all my decisions were based off of gratification,
Mm-hmm. That instant pleasure, that
instant
instant.
gratification,
Mhm.
whether it was smoking of the cigarette, smoking of the weed, drinking of the alcohol, lusting over the women, gambling because of the money, all of the things, hustling because of the money, wanted the money fast, the fast money, right? Get rich quick, or whatever. So it was always, so when I sat with myself and started to reflect on where I was and who I was and how I got there, it was like I did this based off of my decisions, and my decisions were all founded upon instant gratification.
Mhm.
And that's when I started reading self help books,
Okay.
personal growth and development. And they all have an underlining basic principles. They all say the same thing, it's just in somebody else's words, right?
Mhm.
So once it starts to click, like the more you do something, no matter what it is, the better you get at it. So the more I read and studied the psychology or the ideology behind doing the right thing and putting um, what it is you feel you're meant to do over everything else, then that's when it starts to go into practice,
Mhm.
because now it's you again, you're doing it over and over by reading it, by speaking it. I started to tell my mom, I start writing letters, and my language is changing, my vocabulary is changing, my articulation is changing, everything is starting to change. And it's like a filter I had to place on not just my ears, my eyes, um, but my heart, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I had to place a filter on my heart, because that's the spirituality aspect of things. You have like on the old cartoons, the good and the bad, right? On the shoulder, the good whispering. Every decision you're faced with, there's a good outcome, and there's a bad outcome with most of the decisions we make. And you have the good calling you this way, and the little devil on this, the angel and the devil, calling you the other way. And it's like that's that spirituality, the heart that you had, is that vessel you have to train to either listen to or not listen to,
Mhm.
which is, for those who aren't religious or spiritual, it's your subconscious.
Yeah.
It's just the inner voice. We all have that. I don't care what you believe in. You can be
Yep.
atheist. You will agree that there's a voice in your head that tells you, if you do something that's not in accordance with what you feel like you're meant to do, you regret it.
Yep. It'll be off. It'll be off. Now, at any time when you were starting to, read the books and discovering that underlying, commonality between them, did you find as you were in there and you're growing personally, but your environment is not, was it a challenge to push to grow through being in that space, or did you find it easier because you're kind of isolated from everything else? Like, how did it work for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's a very, very big conflict, right? Um, and it's like a tug of war where you're the environment when you grow up. Well, for me, when I grew up, becoming a product of my environment, I'm used to adaptation. I'm used to adapting to no matter what the circumstance is. And the facilities I was at, the prisons I was at, there were a lot of negative actions, a lot of negativity, all the way to even like the um, base negative aspects of it, to where like the older gentlemen just were bitter. It's like, why are you so negative, man? Why are you so bitter? It's like everybody just and not, and you have those who are working on themselves and working to grow and doing positive things, but it's not the majority by far. And the environment as a whole is just it's unhealthy mentally, and can be very unhealthy physically. And you're at risk. Your life is at risk every single day, because of the mindset. There's a mental health issue to this. There's just different personalities that individuals have. um, People are struggling, man. Everybody's struggling to some extent, and some higher levels than other, and there's people in there that are struggling, and they just would rather, the only way they know how to deal with the pain, to cope, is to lash out on other people.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be a complete innocent bystander just trying to do your time, and end up out of self-defense catching a life sentence, or catching more time, adding 5 years, 10 years, 20 years to your current sentence, by just defending yourself, being positive. So yes, there's a very big conflict, and while I was making those changes, I still had to uphold my manhood, my who I am, the respect that I earn,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you have to earn respect in there. Well, you have to earn respect out here, right? And no matter where you go, you've got to earn respect, and that just comes from believing in something, standing firm upon it, and not folding, or crumbling at the
Mm-hmm.
onset of the wind blow.
So as you're starting to read and you're starting to evolve within, growing inside, did you start having ideas and visions about what you wanted to become, about what was going to be next, or like could you even see that far?
So yes, and that's what happened. The more I became positive and started to transition into doing better, um, my vision became clearer. And so it's almost like, a lot of times you'll hear these days when entrepreneurs speak about business aspects, it's like reverse engineering. You hear that term a lot, right? So I was doing reverse engineering before I even knew what reverse engineering was, as far as the term goes. But it's like, here's the vision. This is who I see myself as. And it's so clear, like it could give you goosebumps. um and so that's and then I just reverse engineer, or I go backwards from there.
Mm-hmm.
What does so it's like an avatar, or a Frankenstein, right? I'm making or molding that vision of who I am to become, the man that I want to be and will be.
And
What does
that is
that man
something
do?
huge. Like you make a point right there that's huge because you're doing this in a place where you don't have your freedom. You're choosing to go through these challenges of growing in a place that's not designed to nurture growth really. And yet out here, when there's all kinds of opportunity, I'm sure it's got to be difficult for you because I know it is even for me when you see people who are stuck in that space of excuses and come up with all the reasons why they can't. And you're thinking, dude, I was in there and I still made it happen. How does that work for you today when you run into things like that? Because I know I see it all the time, but I, of course, didn't have the same experience as you, and I know what it does to me. So, how do you deal with people that are full of the excuses as to why they can't? And you're like, yeah, that's not going to fly with me right now.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I face every day. One of the biggest things, one of the biggest challenges for me on a daily basis is not to break character, right?
Okay.
It's because I know where I've been, where I come from, what I'm capable of, and that doesn't. I don't want that to be indirectly thought of as something crazy. I'm not this serial killer, right? So we could talk about my charge. How did I get a first degree murder charge? Now, did I murder somebody? Right. So we could talk about that in just a second. But because of the experiences I've had and be in the way the world and this show I know is spill the truth, right?
Mhm.
The world is cultivating a very, very soft tissue individual. Hands down, men are becoming softer and softer by the day, just based off of society as a whole, the way everything is going. And so those who have excuses, as you said, like why they can't do something, why they can't get up early, why they don't want to work, or work is too hard, and this and that, all of the things, right? Um, One of my biggest things is not breaking character, but definitely upholding the truth and being honest
Yeah. Yep.
and letting people know, sometimes very bluntly, and sometimes so there's compassion and compression, and you have to be a good judgment of people, when to apply which one. Some people need that compression. They need to be told, stop being a sissy,
Mhm.
man the f up, grow some balls,
Mhm.
and take care of your business. Some need compassion, right? And so you have to deal with people accordingly, and it's just knowing how to deal with people. And that's what I face every day when dealing with people. It's like, all right, do I apply compression or compassion?
I love that. That's
Um,
that's a great way to look at it. I don't think I've ever heard it in those terms, and that's awesome. That's definitely nuggets that people are going to take away. We do have Charles here from Hawaii, so hello, aloha, Charles. He's here, and Brenda Ringwood. She says hey, and I have attended a conference with her, and she actually has a platform called Fell into Fabulous. So it's amazing that she's tuning in tonight. So definitely connect you too. But yeah, compression, compassion. That's awesome. So keep going. I just wanted to throw that in there.
yeah, yeah. So, and so that's what I'm faced with, and like you said, like how do you deal with it? And it's just that love isn't lies. And I've learned to love people regardless, right? So, the first universal law is the law of oneness. We're all connected in some way. I've been that alcoholic. I've been that drug addict. I've been that vicious, ignorant, bad individual. So when I see all of these traits in other people, I can still love them because I was that person at one time. And I
Mm-hmm.
see the potential that people have. I see potential in people that they don't see in themselves.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
And
place to be.
so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so, that being said, it's like I'm able to deal with people on their level, and knowing that I can love them for who they are, for the potential that I know they possess, and not for what they're doing currently,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then I'm able to be honest with them, because love isn't lies. If I say I love you and you're overweight, and I just keep letting you be overweight, and I don't tell you, hey, Elena, you might want to work on that diet a little bit. If I don't do that, then how can I say I love you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as an individual, right?
Yep.
So that when I see people that have those excuses, that want to, play the victim game, or find reasons not to do whatever it is that they need to be doing on any level. It's just being truthful, but knowing how to do that where they can accept it and not reject it.
Yes, and
And
that's
that's the
that's
biggest.
that is the biggest, to not trigger that defense and to not,
Hmm.
trigger somebody to put their own wall up and like tune you out. Now, I know you stay extremely uh, in character every day. You have a very strict regimen that you follow. Share that a little bit because I know for me, my sleep habit is like non-existent. I'm all over the place, but I do believe there is such power in structure. And that was one of the things that when I heard you speak, you're solid. Like you've got it. Share a little bit about the routine that you must stay committed to that has helped you go from that confinement to the freedom, but you're in check, man. Like your routine is solid. Share a little bit about how you developed that and how you keep that mental strength to stay on it.
Yeah. So my daily routine, and this is not a Monday through Friday. This is 7 days a week for all of my life. Like there's no deadline on it. It started very long time ago during my incarceration, and it's been the same ever since. And it's 3 o'clock, wake up, 3 a.m. Get up at 3 a.m. no matter what. A lot of people say, well, what time do you go to bed? It's irrelevant. Don't worry about what time you go to bed. It's called having integrity and keeping your word to yourself. If you say you're going to do something, especially when it comes to the betterment of your own personal growth and development, then stick to it. So 3 a.m. wake up. I have my fluids that I drink. So I drink at least 16 ounces of water. Then I fix my cup of coffee. I sit down. I supplicate, and then I start. I read. I read something that's cultivating to my personal growth and development. Um, and then I do some reflecting. A lot of times it used to be I would reflect on past pain that I went throughout my life and overcame, because that was the source of my power. That's what gave me the confidence, the self-esteem to make it through every day, was knowing that I overcame such hardship from a child um, to an adult. And so that was my source of power. And when you know what you overcome, when you've been through something, and we've all been through something, it doesn't have to be my level of pain or trials, tribulations, and afflictions is different from yours.
Mhm.
And but we all have been through something. And if you're still here, you overcame it. How did you overcome it? So when I reflect on what did I do, how did I make it, if I can make it better, all of the things, right? And I start applying those. And so now from 3 o'clock in the morning, here it is almost 5 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I've already started stacking wins because I've supplicated to my Lord. I've reflected on the things in my life that I want to do or change, or what I need to do or change, right? I've drank my water
Mhm.
for that, and then I'm going to work out. So I go to the gym and I do an excruciating workout regimen. And because I believe that nutrition and fitness, it the discipline it takes cultivates growth in every other area of my life, from business to relationships with my wife to relationships with my child, my granddaughter, like my neighbors. And because with fitness, it instills in you delayed gratification, right? We talked about instant gratification earlier. How do we put purpose over pleasure over those instant gratifications? Well, fitness instills in you delayed gratification because you have to do it long enough in order to get the results you seek.
Yes. Yes.
There's no magic pill. People have been trying to do
No.
it for years.
We've been
You
trying to
know,
get that pill for years. I that was other one of the other common things that we had talked about. I had a few. fitness studio for 14 years. And when I had to push through, losing my husband, losing all my like losing everything, and still stay the course, still push through. So much of that discipline came from those years of physically pushing my body in the fitness industry, because you don't want to be uncomfortable, but yet you do it anyway, and you've got to get through that discomfort in order to get the results. And so much aligns in the physical aspect with the power that you hold to change your life in a mental aspect. And so I get it. I get it that it's that delayed gratification that serves you so well down the road, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And something you said is that discomfort, right? So I learned to find comfort in the discomfort. I don't like to get up at 3 o'clock. I don't get up at 3 o'clock because I've been doing it for so many years. And yes, I do just automatically wake up, right? They say that the internal alarm clock or whatever, but that doesn't mean I want to. It doesn't mean I enjoy it. I would be a nutcase, like if that was the case. Like, no, it's a sense of finding comfort in the discomfort. That discomfort, I know, as long as I continue to do it, I'm ahead of those that won't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as long as I live every single day pushing forward with everything I got to be the best version of myself, I'm ahead of those that don't.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And yeah, and so I don't care. I'm not competing against nobody else. The only competition is me. So I have to outperform every single day. And I know as long as I'm outperforming Justin yesterday, today, tomorrow's going to be better. And I'm ahead of those that don't.
So if there's someone that has been comfortable in their excuses, if there's
Mm,
someone listening that is like, yeah, I have all these things that I want to do, and they know I tried the diet, I quit. Went to the gym 2 weeks out, I'm done. Like whatever it is they start, they just don't finish. Where do you suggest someone begin to develop that skill to allow them to push themselves to keep going? Would it be reading the books like you read in prison to just get the mind right first, or what do you recommend to somebody that comes to you and says, where do I start?
yeah, no, that's a great question. So it's going to be relative to the individual, right? But it kind of starts with when you're talking about some type of transformation, there has to be some type of discipline involved, right? Which is habits, right? So habit transformations. So what are you currently doing? I would ask a person, we would have to have some dialogue where I kind of get to the bottom of it. Like, okay, you try dieting, but you keep quitting or you quit stopping. What are your habits currently? That's what we need to change. And you start to change those habits in bits and pieces. How, the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
So you start to change those daily habits, and it's not always adding to your plate. That's I find that a lot of people, that's the problem. They're trying to add more to their plate. They already have enough. Sometimes, if you live a life of deduction, start subtracting. Start subtracting the things that are not necessary, that aren't relevant or cultivating that vision that you want to have or that you have for yourself.
Yes.
Start taking those out, and you start opening up space in your life and doors in your life for the other things to come in without adding on
Yes.
top of it.
And that's huge that you say that, because a while back I did a thing called do less, achieve more. And
Yes.
I had to kind of look at in my business world, my business structure, because I got sucked up into, oh my gosh, I'm an author, but if they're speaking, then I got to speak, and if they writing a newsletter, I got to blog, I got to, it's almost like I was adding, thinking I had to do what everybody else was doing. And it's like, that's partly why we're here. I drill down. I'm like, Besitos is my business. Anything I do is going to tie to my business. Anything else gets removed. And
Yeah.
so I think you nailed it, because sometimes people think if I add this, if I bring on this, it will take me further. But yet it's almost like just throwing more things in your backpack. It's heavier to carry and it'll take you longer. And some of the stuff, even when you pack for vacation and you realize I didn't even need half of what I brought, but yet it made my suitcase so heavy. Right. So I think that you nailed
Yeah.
it right there of just eliminating things.
Yeah, definitely. Pressure bust pipes,
Mhm.
and you can only handle so much pressure. So if you're adding to your plate and you're already an individual who isn't disciplined, and that's an area that you need to work on, then it's you're setting yourself up for failure. So
So today, living a life of purpose over pleasure. How do you, what does that mean? Is that something that you coach? Is that something you speak on? Or is it something you just simply live? What is it?
all of the above.
Okay.
So my program is mindset, nutrition, and fitness. So I do coach that. Yes, I do give speaking engagements. So I do speak on that.
Mhm.
And first and foremost, I lead by what I live. So I live by that purpose over pleasure. And for me, my purpose is being the man that I always needed, the individual I would listen to, right? Most of us will look in the mirror and won't take our own advice.
Yeah.
So becoming the individual I would listen to, the man that I always needed in my life. I had my stepfather who raised me, him and my mother. I don't know my real father, but he raised me since I was like 8 months old. To me, he is my dad, my father. But he wasn't the man I always needed him to be, right? So my purpose is becoming the man I always needed to be, always needed. I'm sorry, and giving that person to the world.
That's awesome.
And I do that. I make sure I put that over pleasures in life, like sleeping in late, like overeating, or indulging in activities that most of us ain't got no business. I'm 42 years old. What do I look like going and drinking out at and dancing at clubs or parties or all of that? To me, that stuff is just silly, but I did it at such a young age.
Yeah.
Some people are just now starting to do that stuff. It's like I did it when I was a teenager. That's
Yeah.
nothing to me. And that's kind of how my vision got crafted so many years ago sitting in prison. Was I did all of this stuff, been there and done that when it came to that street life, right?
Mhm.
What I hadn't done was live a domestic lifestyle. So I was also at the same time that I'm reading personal growth and development literature and books, I'm also reading Nicholas Sparks and watching all of his movies, right? I'm a fan of The Notebook and all of Nicholas Sparks' work, right? Because prior to going to prison, I never woke up next to the same woman. I
Yeah.
never cut grass and paid bills and did the things around the house that men do. I
Mhm.
was living the life of a hustler, you know, bouncing from strip club to strip club, bouncing from state to state, doing all of those things. So it was like that's the life that I yearn for. That's the void that I had in my life that was unfulfilled. Where a lot of guys that I seen and talked to face in prison, they had already done 8, 10, 12 years, got out and came back within 12 months. And I said,
Wow.
how do you do that? How do you do that? And what I found out was they had these unfulfilled street dreams. They were still chasing that high. They need to get high one more time, or chasing some girl's thongs, or chasing a package is what we call it, drugs, right?
Mhm.
Another sale, another kilo, whatever it was. They had these unfulfilled street dreams. And the more I reflected on myself, it was like, man, I'd done all of that.
Yeah.
This is what I want. I want a domestic lifestyle.
It was time for you to change the dream, to dream a new
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So yes, I do. I live that, and that's how I live my purpose over pleasure. I give up all of the things that I know is easy and comfortable. And don't get me wrong, I'm not some psycho walking around in a straitjacket where I have no fun. Where I don't get to laugh. No, I laugh, I joke, I'm happy. Like,
Mhm.
I love my life. Within the first 4 years of my release, I got when they released me, they gave me $40.
Wow.
That's all the money I had, into a state I had no family or friends.
Wow.
Within 4 years, I bought two brand new vehicles, a brand new house, new construction, over 3,000 square feet. And this isn't to brag, but
Mhm.
it's like, you don't get there or do that without making sacrifices
Yes. And discipline.
and discipline.
Mhm.
Yes. And so I said that to say that's how purpose over pleasure. That's how I lived that. And yes, I
And
still had plenty of fun.
I get what you say on the fun, because for me, when you talked that pain to power, I did a whole challenge on pain to power one time, because people, you hear all the time, pain to purpose, pain to purpose, and I don't believe that, because we all have pain, but not everybody is living in their purpose. So if pain
Yeah.
automatically took you to purpose, everybody'd be walking around living, and I don't believe everyone is. But that power is power that so strong it can either confine you and hold you down for all your days, or it's so powerful it can push you into doing the hard things that lead to purpose. And so when you talk about fun, there was one time, for me, I'm very serious. I love talking about the tough stuff. That's why I do that. Like, this to me is fun.
There you go. That's
my
it.
my idea
That's
of
it.
fun may look different than other people's idea of fun, but stuff like
Exactly.
this is how this is fun to me. So I get how you're like, no, I still have my fun, but it just
Yeah.
might look different than what people would consider fun.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
So you said, and I really didn't want to dip into that piece of it, but you said we'll come back to that. When you're charged, how
Mhm.
did you get charged with something like that? Like, what happened there?
I'm glad you asked, because so many times I'm on somebody's show, um, that never gets brought up, and I've always wondered, like, to me, that's like the number one question, like, what did you do? But so I was at a family affair. It was my little cousin's birthday party. Some uninvited guests showed up. A guy had it started out as a fist fight with my oldest cousin.
Now, real
My
quick, were
cousin was
you 21 at this time, or how old were you at this time?
Yes, I was 21.
Okay.
And so um, the guy started a fist fight with my cousin. My cousin was getting the best of him. He pulled out a butterfly knife and started stabbing my cousin to death.
Oh, wow.
So I pulled out a gun and shot him.
Okay. And he died.
And yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
So and in a nutshell, that's the reality of it, and that's what happened.
Now, were
Um,
were you just as shocked? Oh, Jose Escobar hopped on. He said, "What's up? Good evening, Jose from CLA." So were you shocked that you actually did that when all was said and done, or was it like, nah, I'd do it again? Like how did you feel in that moment?
yeah. So for me, again, a lot of things that I went through early on in life all stemmed of me just being a product of my environment and the environment that I was around growing up. And I was told at a very young age, you won't make it to live you won't live to see 21. If you do, you're going to be in prison. So that's the mentality I lived day to day by at a very young age. Either I'm gonna die or I'm going to prison. So when it happened, it was just another day in the life. It wasn't nothing shocking. Like it was
Yeah.
like that's what that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what you get, right? As unfortunate as it is that somebody lost a life, it's just that's what happens.
Hmm.
So for
Hmm.
me, it wasn't a surprise or shocking or anything. It was just another day.
Now, when you say that, do you think that that's partly one of the reasons why when people are in and they get out and they end up back in, like you said, is because that time that they're in there, they're not doing what you did in trying to read and grow and develop as a person, more changing the dream, dreaming the new dream. So to them, it's like, yeah, I'm out, but still the end results the same. Is that why you think so many just kind of repeat the cycle? Because that's really one of the only things to happen is you either end up dead or in prison or something like that.
Yeah. So and again, it's relative to each individual.
Right.
I've been around a lot of individuals that keep the recidivism rate high because of that. They just keep coming back. Again, some of it is mental health. Some of them just have issues,
Mm-hmm.
like but then some of them again they just had these unfulfilled street dreams. They're not finished. They got locked up before they were finished doing whatever it is they thought they were doing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether, like I said, whether it was getting another package, getting high. It's an addict, whether it's a drug addict or an alcoholic, whatever the addiction is, even a foodie, right? Somebody who's addicted to food, it's they got to taste it one more time,
Mm-hmm.
or they got to taste it again. They haven't satisfied anything, or the satisfaction that they got was temporary. So those individuals that keep coming back to prison or going back to prison, they haven't been fully satisfied with
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is they're involved in that's bringing them back to prison.
Yeah. Now you even mentioned just a bit about the mental health, and you and I have had a discussion on a different panel, and you brought up this topic, and I think let's just bring it up and talk about it now too. Um, Mental health is so uh, it's so wide. It's so widespread. It can go into many directions, and we talked about suicide, and we talked about just some close firsthand experiences that you've had with suicide. And you brought up, what about those of us that are left behind, that lost somebody to suicide? And I want you to just share a little bit about that, of where that was coming from, because I know you felt it. And I just felt the strong urge right now to bring it up. So I know God is letting me know someone needs to hear that. So I know it's a little bit off of where we were, but there's a message in you that I know needs to be shared right now. Will you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it was it initiated with we had that panel about suicide and that discussion, and running parallel to that discussion was when I went to prison. My mom was out there and she felt very lonely. She didn't know anybody else that she could talk to that their son was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know anybody else. Of course, there's plenty of people out there that their sons are in prison. She just didn't know anybody. And so that's where um, that derived from. It was like those people who, the ones who are talking about committing suicide or have the mental health issues, wanting to commit suicide or faced with it. There's all the programs and the help and the support and the talk about them. Well, what happens when they commit suicide? Their mom or their dad or their brother or their friends, because my interaction with suicide was my best friend at 12 years old hung himself from his bunk beds. We were the same age. We were a month apart. We were getting ready to turn 13, and he hung himself. And it's like, well, and people say they took the easy way out or whatever, but well, what about us? Like, where's the support? And there may be, I just don't know. But
Right.
where's the groups and the discussion and the talks for those people, that the survivors,
The
right?
survivors. And I think it is so important because as much as we can talk about mental health and suicide awareness and all of these pieces of it, there's still so much stigma attached. There's still kind of like blame attached, or somebody must have done something to cause this for someone to be here. And my son was just on last Sunday talking about his own self confidence and self esteem issues, because he's one that struggles with suicidal thoughts and mental health, and he's come so far, but he was at a really really low place a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I was able to um, just recently start sharing how difficult it is to be a parent of someone, of your child, that you don't know if you leave for work in the morning and come home from work in the afternoon if they're going to be breathing. You don't know if when you fall asleep at night, if you sleep a little too deep and heavy, when you wake up, will my child still be breathing? And we don't talk about this because uh, it's there's always fingers pointing, and there's always blame, and there's always all of this opinionated stuff. And so I think the fact that you brought this up is amazing, and I think the fact that my son was ready to talk, it just opens up that reality that you, as a 12-year-old, to experience your best friend at 12 years old to have hung himself off a bunk bed, you know
Mm-hmm.
like that's deep, that's sad. And who was there for the parent? People would be so quick to for judgments and stuff, and we are here to talk about the real things. And so when you brought that up, I thought, I don't know if people do know that there's groups or places for survivors of people that they've lost to suicide. Please share it, because somebody else might need it. um, how do you think that affected you at 12 years old? Could you well, and I know you said you grew up early, street kid, you kind of learned real life real fast, but how do you think that affected you growing up from that point on?
Um, so for me, as a young male, where it was instilled in us very early on that you don't show signs of weakness, right? Men don't cry, men don't complain, women do that stuff, right? So something like that, when it happens, you suppress any kind of feelings that may make you feel like you're seeming to be soft. And when you do that long enough, you become hard hearted, right? So at 12 years old, as unreal as it may seem, I was already hard hearted. Like, it was something that's like, it was that anger thing. And what do we do as young men who don't know how to articulate our feelings out of fear of coming off as soft? What do? We lash out
Mhm.
in anger. We fight, we get in trouble, we commit crimes. We do all of those things because we're taught, you know, not to openly express our feelings. And so it just kind of, you ask how that affect me moving forward or growing up. It made me angry that he would do that, and I just continue to do the same bad things that I was involved in or doing.
Yeah. Did you find that once you got locked up, and once you're in there, and I know you said that there were times that you began reflecting on past pain, and reflecting on things, did you find that there was a point as you were a grown man that you released actual mourning him? Like, did it ever actually surface that pain, or was it so far back and you were just so hard at that time that it never really, it just was accepted, it was a thing that happened and you moved on?
Yeah, no, it was. I never like. Uh, I guess mourned, like you said. It happened so long ago. Like other things in my life, I just put a mental block over it and just moved on. It's like I know that it happened. I didn't forget it, but I overcame it.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So we have a few more minutes, and I want you to just kind of wrap up once again to just share with the listeners as they tune in, living a life of purpose over pleasure. Just final words that you want to share with listeners on exactly what that means and what they can do with that in their lives forward.
Yeah. So a lot of people are still trying to figure out their purpose in life, right? And it's like, well, how do I find my purpose? It's not something you find, it's in you. It's what is it you would do if money wasn't an issue, if you know external circumstances had nothing to do with anything. What is it that makes you completely and totally satisfied with yourself, with your life? What is it you would do? What is it that you have? What did you know? So, like I said, for most people, if not all, we've overcome something. That whatever it is you did to overcome, somebody else can use that, teach that. That could be your purpose.
Yeah.
It's something you're good at. You overcame it. No matter how long it took, no matter what it took, but you went through something and you overcame it. Teach that. Or if it's even if it's nothing to do with, a trial or an affliction, but it's something you're good at. Some people are just they become really good at things. Somebody else needs to hear how you're really good at that thing so they can be really good at their thing, right?
Yeah.
Teach that. That's a purpose in life, is to become the best version of yourself and give it to the world.
Love that. Become the best version of yourself and give it to the world. And we all have, we all have that. We all have purpose. And that's huge. I want to say thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing, number one, your time with me, but sharing this wisdom and just your experience, because you gave a lot of insight as to mental discipline, um, focus, and the beauty that personal growth and development can bring into your life. You changed your life. You dreamt a new dream, and it's an honor because now you are sharing your purpose with the world. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing it with us tonight.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share.
You're welcome. And we will get, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, I do know, and I want you to plug this in here. You have some sort of a voting thing going on right now, and it serves a purpose. It has a cause to it. Share that, and then we'll put the link in somewhere on my page. We'll get that shared out here. What is it that you have going on right now?
Yeah, so currently I am um, in a contest to have a two-page article and be featured in Men's Muscle and Fitness magazine.
Okay. Wow.
Um, and to win a cash prize of $20,000.
Nice. Nice.
So right now I'm in first place, but I have to
Wow.
maintain. Thank
Congratulations.
you,
Hmm.
thank. It's from all of you guys, like everybody that voted. Right, it's based off of votes. So unfortunately, it's like a popularity contest, and I'm really not that popular. But fortunately, enough people do love me and want to support not just me, but your votes. If you can vote one time for free each day, every 24 hours, you can cast a free vote. Those that buy votes, the money goes to helping rebuild homes for veterans.
Nice.
So
Nice.
there is a good cause behind it. It's not just vote for me so I can get in a magazine and win $20,000. There's a cause behind it, which is
Yes.
beautiful thing. So that being said, I have to maintain first place, of course, throughout the duration of the contest in order
Mhm.
for it to work, for me
All
to win.
right. And how long does this go on, the voting? How long is this on?
So for right now, the only information I have is the voting for the top 20 is 2 more days, and
Okay.
then I'm not sure what happens after that.
After that. Well, all
Until
right
yes,
then.
so
We'll
I'm
have
in
to get
first
your
right now.
Yeah, we'll have to get your link. We'll share it out there and get those votes coming and help with
Thank you.
homes for veterans as well. So, all right, Justin, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we will see you later.
Thank you, and thank everybody.